I received an email with no subject, just one video file, and 5 words. The footage was never meant to be released. At least, that's what the email said. It arrived in my inbox without a subject line, from an address that was just a jumble of random letters and numbers. There was no explanation, just a single video file attached, and one short, chilling sentence in the body of the message. If you're going to tell this story, tell it right. I know I should have just deleted it. It felt wrong from the very beginning, but curiosity got the better of me. Instead, I pressed play. The first thing that hit me was the sound. A raw, howling wind, moving through what sounded like empty streets. The microphone on the camera was picking it up unevenly, making it rise and fall like the slow, distant breathing of something massive. After a moment, the image steadied, revealing a rusted sign, half buried in dirt and weeds. The words were faded, but still legible. Welcome to Greyridge. The town was officially abandoned in the late 1980s, after the local mine, its only real source of employment, shut down for good. That much I already knew from some basic online searches. It was a footnote in local history, a ghost town left to decay. What I didn't know was why a small documentary crew had decided to film there just last summer. Or more importantly, why only fragments of their footage had ever been recovered, sent to me in this strange, anonymous way. The camera turned, and I saw 3 people standing in the middle of a deserted main street. The first was Mark, the host. He had that confident voice, that practiced, easy smile that you see on so many travel and exploration shows. Next to him was Alina, the sound technician. She seemed quiet, observant, constantly adjusting her headphones, her eyes scanning the derelict buildings around them. And then there was the third member of the crew, the one we never see clearly, the one holding the camera, the cameraman. Mark started his introduction, launching into his script like this was just any other project. Greyridge used to be home to over 2,000 people, he said, his voice booming slightly in the emptiness. Now, it's completely empty, or at least, that's what we're told. Alina let out a soft laugh, but the sound of it came out wrong. It was too sharp, too distinct. It felt like it echoed off the buildings in a way that just wasn't natural. They started to walk deeper into the town, and the camera followed. The scene was genuinely eerie. Storefronts were frozen in time, their windows caked in decades of dust. Faded open signs still hung crookedly in some of the doors. A child's bicycle lay on its side near the curb, its frame rusted into a single, unmoving piece. While Mark and Alina walked ahead, the cameraman lingered. The camera panned slowly, methodically, across the details, as if searching for something specific, something out of place. And that was when the audio first cut out. For nearly 2 full seconds, there was absolute nothing. No wind, no footsteps, just a profound, digital silence. Then, just as suddenly as it left, the audio returned, but it was louder than before, more intense, as if the volume had been cranked up. The next clip jumped forward, presumably by several hours. The light in the sky was fading fast. The shadows of the buildings stretched unnaturally long across the street, twisting into strange, distorted shapes. Mark was still talking, but his confident tone was gone. His voice sounded strained now, tight with a new kind of tension. Something's off, he admitted, looking back toward the camera. Our batteries are draining way faster than they should. All of them. Alina nodded in agreement, fiddling with her equipment. I keep hearing things in my headphones, she said, her voice low, like voices, but not words, just whispers under the wind. The camera shifted suddenly, snapping its focus to a dark alley between 2 crumbling brick buildings. For just a split second, there was movement in the shadows. It wasn't a person. It wasn't an animal. It was just a shadow, a patch of pure darkness, sliding along the brick wall, bending impossibly around the corner, without changing its shape or form. Did you see that? Mark asked, his voice barely a whisper. The cameraman didn't answer. The camera stayed fixed on that empty alley for a long, uncomfortable moment, long after the shadow was gone. Night fell quickly after that. The footage became harder to watch, not because of what was visible, but because of what wasn't. As darkness consumed the town, something impossible happened. The town lights flickered on, every single one. Old-fashioned street lamps cast a sickly yellow glow. Neon signs in store windows buzzed back to life. Porch lights on abandoned houses began to shine softly, as if Greyridge had collectively decided to wake up. There are no power lines, Alina whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. There hasn't been power here in decades. Mark tried to laugh it off. A weak, unconvincing sound. It's probably generators, he said. Someone's just messing with us. But the camera wasn't listening to him. It drifted away from Mark and Elena, turning slowly, deliberately, toward the far end of the street. And that's when I saw it. Someone was standing there. It was too far away to make out any details, just a silhouette, perfectly still, under one of the newly lit street lamps. The cameraman began to zoom in, the lens pushing through the darkness. The figure seemed to raise its head, looking directly toward them. And just as its face was about to come into focus, the footage cut. The next file was shorter, only 3 minutes long. The scene had changed. Mark was gone. Elena stood alone in the frame, her face pale, her eyes wide with terror. He walked into one of the houses, she said, her voice shaking uncontrollably. He said he heard someone call his name from inside. She took a ragged breath. I followed him. The house was empty. It was completely empty. But I could still hear him talking to someone. Somewhere above me, in the attic, maybe. She swallowed hard, tears welling in her eyes. We need to leave, now. The camera lowered slightly, a slow, deliberate movement that felt like a nod. The cameraman agreed. They turned together, moving back toward the edge of town, toward where their car should have been. And then they stopped. The road was gone. Where the street should have led back to the highway, there were only more buildings, more streets, more flickering lights stretching into the darkness. Greyridge had grown and had closed in around them. The final clip was unmarked. No title. It was pure chaos. The camera shook violently, moving at a frantic pace through narrow, unfamiliar hallways. It passed doorways that seemed to swing open on their own as it approached. Inside each room, there were people, dozens of them, all standing silently, facing the walls, their backs to the camera. They were all unmoving, but they were all breathing. A soft, collective inhale and exhale filled the audio. Elena's voice came from behind the camera now, a terrified whisper. "They're not alive," she said. "They're recorded like echoes trapped in this place." The camera suddenly spun around, and for a single, shocking moment, it faced a mirror on the wall. For the first time, we saw him, the cameraman. He stood there, reflected in the glass, holding the camera that was recording him. His face was strangely calm, his eyes unfocused, as if he was looking at something far beyond the room. Behind his reflection, the impossible town stretched on, an endless labyrinth folding into itself. "I understand now," he said quietly, his voice devoid of any fear. Elena gasped from behind him. "Understand what? What do you understand?" The cameraman took a step closer to the window, his reflection growing larger. "It needs witnesses," he said, his voice almost serene. "Not people. Witnesses." The camera tilted upward, away from his face. The walls of the room were lined with rows and rows of screens, and on each screen, different footage was playing. Different times, different years, different crews. All filming, all trapped. With a final gentle movement, the cameraman set the camera down on a table, framing the impossible room. Then, he simply walked away from it, into the crowd of silent, breathing figures, and disappeared among them. The footage continued for 6 more hours. Nothing moved. No one spoke. Just the static image of the room, the screens, and the silent witnesses. Until, finally, the screen went black. The file ended. I sat there, staring at my monitor, my heart pounding in my chest. I immediately checked the file's metadata. It had been uploaded less than an hour before I received the email. The sender's address, that random string of characters, no longer existed. It was a dead end. But then, as my inbox automatically refreshed, a new draft message appeared at the top of my list. There was no subject, no text, just my own webcam, already on, already recording. And in the dark reflection of my screen, behind my own face, I swear I could see a light flicker on, somewhere far away. Thanks for watching. If you have stories like this you want me to explore, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to follow for more. Sleep well.